The secretary's song changed his life. CEO finally smiles after 20 years of darkness. In a high-rise office that loomed over the city, the air felt heavy, thick with unspoken words and an overwhelming gloom. Inside, a notorious CEO named Victor Grant rarely smiled. For 2 decades, that grim expression was more than just a mood. It was an impenetrable wall around his heart. His power was absolute, yet the light in his eyes faded like an old movie reel. Each day, gray clouds of despair seemed to swirl around that office, whispering secrets of loss and heartache. But everything changed one fateful afternoon when a new secretary named Clara stepped into his life. Her arrival was anything but ordinary. She carried with her the kind of laughter that crackled like summer fireworks. The moment she crossed the threshold, it was as if the sun had finally peeked through the drab clouds above. But it wasn't just her smile. It was the melody of her voice. Every time she hummed softly, bits of joy broke through the darkness that surrounded Victor endlessly. He noticed how the walls of his cold, sterile office started to tremble with life. Colors seemed to bloom, fragrant and overwhelming. When Clara sang to AT first, he resisted the urge to listen, convinced he was too far gone to be saved. Yet, the strange energy wrapped around him like a tender embrace, pulling him closer to the vibrant warmth of her spirit. It was a stark contrast to the stark boardroom meetings and lifeless spreadsheets that filled his day. As her sweet voice echoed in the background, Victor caught glimpses of hope, stirring memories of brighter days he thought were lost forever. But what lay behind Clara's songs? What mysteries lurked in her smile? Just as Victor started to entertain the idea of rediscovering joy, a sharp sound pierced the air, a crash, followed by hushed gasps. Victor turned sharply, heart pounding, every nerve on high alert. Clara, only moments before swirling in a world of music, now stood wide-eyed, trembling. A dark shadow loomed over the glass doors. A mysterious figure stood outside, shrouded in a long coat that flapped against the wind. Who was this stranger? Why were they staring at Clara? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The tension in the room hung heavy and tense. The contrast was stark. Her music had been a soothing balm. Yet now, dread clawed at Victor's chest. What secret was Clara hiding? Would he find the courage to unearth the mysteries that bound their fates? As he approached her, she looked over her shoulder at the dark figure, and for the first time, fear snaked through Victor's heart. The walls might have started to glow with promise, but shadows still lurked, threatening to engulf them both. And so, the question hung, stark and urgent. Would he allow the melody of hope to drown out the dissonance of fear, or was it already too late? Clara stood frozen, her eyes wide in a mixture of confusion and terror, as Victor felt her fear seep through their space like a palpable fog. He turned to glance at the ominous figure, its face masked by shadows, only the hint of something dark and powerful flickering beneath the coat's heavy fabric. Who is that? Clara stammered, her voice catching in her throat. Victor stepped closer, a protective instinct stirring inside him. I don't know, he whispered, every cautious word laden with unease. The figure remained still, staring through the glass with an intensity that felt like an electric current humming in the air. Do you know them? He asked, tilting his head, searching Clara's expression for answers. But her lips pressed into a tight line, and Victor could see a light tremor in her hands. Maybe we should call security, he suggested, digging his phone from his pocket, but Clara suddenly grasped his wrist, her grip firm yet trembling. No, don't, she gasped, panic flickering in her eyes. Please, don't draw any attention. But why? He shot back, a mix of anger and concern bubbling inside him. He was a powerful CEO, after all. He had control over everything, or so he thought. The walls that once seemed decorated in hope now pulsated with uncertainty, reflecting the fear in Clara's gaze. Before she could respond, the figure began to move, pacing slowly towards the office. Victor's heart raced as he felt a chill run down his spine. The footsteps echoed ominously against the polished floors, hammering against the quiet tension. They were heavy, deliberate. "Stay back, Clara," he warned, stepping between her and the glass doors. The shadow was now close enough for Victor to swiftly close his palm around the business card pressed against his desk, one that felt heavier now than it ever had. But then, a voice, ragged and low, drifted through the air as the figure drew closer. "Victor Grant, it's time to confront your past." The room lost its color. Victor's throat constricted, words caught in his chest. What past? But before he could voice this question, Clara squeezed his arm with an intensity that pierced through the fear. "Victor, run." His heart slammed against his ribs. "Why? Trust me." Her voice was urgent, holding a desperate tone that pulled at the remnants of his hesitance. "They're here for me. Please, you have to go." Victor hesitated. He felt a mix of emotions raging within him. Anger, confusion, and fear, but also something sharper, an urge to protect. Protect the light that had begun to shine through his life once again. But before he could react, the figure slammed a fist against the glass, the force vibrating through the room. A crack spiderwebbed across the surface, shards of dread slicing through the air. "What do you want?" Victor finally shouted, his voice breaking through the shroud of uncertainty. The figure stepped into the light, an outline he recognized but couldn't place. "Your time is running out, Victor. The music can't drown out your truth forever with that," Clara gasped, the sound cutting through the tension like glass shattering. "Victor, it's not just about me, it's about you." Seconds felt like hours. Victor's heart raced as he wrestled with his choices. If he didn't act now, how many more moments would slip away into darkness? As panic swelled in the room and time stretched like taffy, a decision loomed. He could either stay and confront whatever past haunted them both or flee into the uncertain night with Clara by his side. But the choice wouldn't come easy. He could feel the weight of the decision closing in like a shadow poised to consume them. And with one final push of adrenaline, Victor stepped forward, determined. "Tell me everything." Just then, the lights flickered ominously, flickering between safety and chaos. What awaited them on the other side of that truth? And would it bring the hope they both desperately craved, or drag them deeper into the abyss? Victor's voice hung in the air, the words trembling with an urgency he could scarcely contain. The figure before him shifted, the shadow now defined by the dim overhead light. That face, or lack of it, was chillingly familiar yet distorted, like an old photograph that had faded into obscurity. "Victor," the figure purred, low and seductive, each syllable slicing through the tension like a knife. "You've forgotten, but I haven't." The name echoed in Victor's mind, a memory he wished to bury, but the image refused to budge. Clara's grip on his arm tightened, her nails biting into his skin. Her fear morphed into something else, an expression of regret mingled with horror. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, confusion weaving through his anger. "Who are you?" The figure took a step forward, the crack in the glass behind him deepening, as if the very foundation of reality were about to shatter. "You've built a life on lies. It's time for the truth to be unveiled." "Victor, we need to go," Clara hissed, urgency creeping into her voice. "No," he snapped, still haunted by that voice, the way it lingered in his mind. "You can't just throw everything away. Can't you see?" she pleaded. "That's what they want. To play with your past. To unravel everything." He was torn, an unspeakable conflict brewing within him. In one corner lay the suffocating past he wrapped himself in, and in the other, Clara's piercing blue eyes, an anchor of hope amid the chaos. "Your struggle won't matter if you don't confront the truth," the figure taunted, inching closer. "Everything you hold on to will be stripped away until all that remains is despair." Victor's breath hitched as memories surged, the reckless choices, the people he had betrayed, the dark shadows that lingered in corners of his heart. As sweat formed on his brow, he felt the weight of those decades like lead upon his shoulders. "No," he whispered, desperation mingling with defiance. "That's not how this ends." The lights flickered again, plunging the room into darkness for microseconds. A low chuckle erupted from the figure, echoing into the void. "You think you can escape your ghost? They follow you like shadows." Clara tugged at Victor until he stumbled. Don't let it speak. We have to move. But as they turned, the door slammed shut, a resounding thud that reverberated in his chest. The figure blocked their exit, the aura of menace thickening the air between them. Do you even know what you're fighting against? It hissed, eyes glinting malevolently. You've never been free. Your success is built on pain. Sorrow wrapped around Victor like an old coat, familiar and suffocating. But this time, his resolve hardened. You think I'll listen to you? He roared, the walls vibrating. I'm done letting nightmares dictate my life. Are you? It retorted, a smug grin emerging from the shadow. You'd rather cling to the success of a facade? How quaint. But truth is relentless. It will come knocking at your door. Clara stepped forward, a barrier of light breaking through Victor's uncertainty. Don't let it in. We're stronger than this. With Clara's fierce gaze igniting a spark of courage, Victor took a deep breath. Tell me what you want from us. He shouted. Your honesty, Victor, the figure answered darkly. And the music is about to stop playing. The room felt colder, an impending dread weighing them down as the clock ticked closer to midnight, the shadows looming larger. In that charged silence, a truth pulsated, waiting to be unearthed. Victor's heart raced as he was propelled toward the crossroads awaiting a decision that would cement his fate. Would he face the specter of his past, or let it consume him whole? As the chill wrapped around him like a vice, a last flicker of comprehension ignited. Shadows danced in the corners, anticipation crackling in the air like static electricity. The music was about to change, but what song would it play next? The moment hung heavily in the air, the atmosphere thick with foreboding. The figure stood unfazed, arching an eyebrow, inviting play, a predator toying with its prey. Clara Victor's voice was raw, becoming a plea as he turned to her. What is happening? Why now? We have to find a way out, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper, eyes darting around, searching for an escape. She pulled him toward the window, but it was too high to reach. The darkness beyond was uninviting, a void of uncertainty that mirrored his thoughts. Listen to me, Victor protested, glancing back at the figure. I can't just run. If there's a truth to be faced, I need to look it in the eye. Victor, she hissed, grabbing his shoulder, shaking him. This isn't just about you anymore. It's about us, about our future. This thing wants to drag you back into the depths. Don't let it. A laugh echoed, reverberating off the walls like a cruel symphony. Ah, sweet Clara, always the pragmatist. But you know he can't resist, can he? It's in his nature to confront the storm, even if it destroys him. The shadows flickered, an invisible current running between them, pulling at Victor's heart, tempting him, teasing him with glimpses of forgotten dreams, regrets, and an ache that was all too familiar. All those years of running and hiding had culminated in this moment. He felt paralyzed, caught in the web of his own making. You're not real, he hissed, trying to wrestle back control. You're just a nightmare, a figment, a mirage aimed to distill my resolve. Real enough to be standing here. Victor, the figure replied, stepping forward, the light flickering ominously. But let us not waste our time with trivialities. How about a wager? Victor's heart pounded. A wager? Consider this. If you can confront the truth without flinching, without losing your cool, I'll let you leave. No strings attached. However, the figure leaned close, its breath icy. If you fail, this life you cherish will fold like a house of cards, and you will face everything you've hidden from. A shiver crept down Victor's spine as a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. What kind of truth? One corner of the figure's mouth twisted into a sinister smile. The truth about your choices, Victor. It'll cut deep, maybe even deeper than you think you can bear. Friends lost, chances squandered, every piece of guilt you carry will come rushing back. Think long and hard. Do you dare to accept? Victor felt the weight of Clara's grip tighten around him. Don't, she urged. Let us find another way. Victor met her gaze, the serene blue igniting something within him. If I don't face it now, will I ever? He turned back to the figure, the calm fury thrumming within him. Fine. I'll accept your wager. The figure nodded slowly, satisfaction curling its features. Then let us begin. I think you might want to hear your own heart's song. Clara's eyes widened, panic flooding her expression. Victor, no? This isn't a game. But the air crackled with anticipation. Shadows flickered in swirling patterns around them. Victor's mind raced, conjuring images of his past, the sacrifices he made, the people he left behind, the lifeline extended and then severed. Let us dive in, shall we? The figure beckoned, its voice dripping with intrigue as the lights around them dimmed, leaving only the moonlight to illuminate their faces like a spotlight on a stage. And suddenly, the music began to play, a haunting melody that struck at the very core of his soul. Victor felt the chords resonate deep within him, a symphony woven from forgotten dreams and buried regrets. Listen closely, Victor, the figure taunted, fading into the shadows as the music enveloped him. The truth is about to unfold, and it's playing your song. As echoes of his past filled the room, Victor's world shifted beneath him. Would he find the courage to face the haunting truth, or would the shadows claim him once more, silencing his voice forever? The melody swirled around them, drifting toward a crescendo. He could feel the pulse of his regrets closing in, adrenaline coursing through his veins, as he awaited the revelation lurking in the depths of the haunting symphony. Would he find redemption, or would the music spell his doom? The haunting melody wrapped around Victor, forcing him into a dance with his demons. With every note, a memory flickered to life, sharp and relentless. He saw faces, friends he had wronged, opportunities he had squandered, each note like a dagger, digging deeper into the wound of regret. Face it, face it, face it. The figure's voice screamed from the shadows, a relentless echo that mocked his every thought. He squeezed his eyes shut, but the images persisted, the music resonating louder. Clara's desperate face flickered in and out of focus, woven into the fabric of his regrets. Was it too late? Was their future slipping away with each haunting refrain? Victor, Clara's voice broke through the cacophony. Stay with me. He could feel the warmth of her hand, grounding him against the storm. You can fight this, she urged, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. But how could he? The weight of his past was heavy, a chain dragging him into an abyss. He opened his eyes, the shadows swirling like a tempest. What must I do? He shouted into the darkness. Listen. The figure's voice slithered through the air. Your past isn't just a burden. It holds the key to your freedom. Victor shivered at the thought. The past had been his prison. But what if it could also be his salvation? He took a deep breath, drawing on Clara's strength as he summoned the courage to confront the memories. The music slowed, transforming from a chaotic storm into a gentle stream. It began to settle in his chest, a heartbeat echoing his own. Each note became a whisper, weaving stories of loss but also of hope, of laughter shared, of love given, of dreams once alive. Remember the joy, the figure urged, its voice now softer, a haunting lullaby. Can you embrace it? Victor focused, his heart racing as he replayed the moments, the time spent laughing around a bonfire, the thrill of chasing dreams with friends, the quiet nights with Clara, sipping coffee while dreaming about the future. Light pierced through the shadows, illuminating the memories that had once felt so distant. Yes, yes, he breathed, his resolve hardening like steel. I can embrace them. The shadows hesitated, flickering in denial. No, you can't handle the weight of the truth. But with each positive thought, the music surged back to life, powerful and vibrant. The shadows began to wane, pushed back by the symphony of his own heart. Victor felt a surge of warmth bubble inside him. No longer would he be a victim of his past. He could reclaim his narrative. Victor, Clara's voice rang clear like a beacon. You're doing it. Don't stop. He reached out, his trembling hands stretching toward the figure, no longer a puppet but a man with agency. I accept everything. The pain, the joy, the choices both good and bad. There's power in recognition. The figure sneered, its confidence fading as Victor's light grew. You think you can turn the tide? Yes, Victor shouted, and the once elusive truth surged through him like wildfire. It wasn't about perfection, it was about acceptance. He wasn't defined by his failures, but by how he rose from them. A pulse of energy shot through the room, shattering the dark hold the figure had over him. The melodies twisted and rose, forming a triumphant anthem. Victor felt the chains of his guilt snap, one after another, until he stood free, exposed but liberated. As the last echoes of the past faded, the shadows collapsed like a house of cards, leaving a vibrant light in its wake. Victor turned to Clara, tears blurring his vision. I felt it, I actually felt it. But just as abruptly as the chaos ceased, a chilling breeze swept through the room, darkening the atmosphere. The corner of the figure's mouth lifted in a cruel smirk. This isn't over, Victor. Shadows never truly fade. They just wait for the right moment to strike again. The chilling words hung heavy in the air, and Victor's heart dropped. Had he truly escaped, or was this merely the calm before the storm? What awaited them next? Would the shadows return to reclaim him? Would he have the strength to confront them once more? Victor stood there, heart racing, eyes darting back to Clara, whose presence felt like a lifeline amidst the swirling disarray. The echoes of his triumph hung in the air, fragile yet vibrant, like a freshly formed echo threatening to shatter at the slightest disturbance. But her expression began to shift, concern washing over her features as the shadows seemed to churn and dance ominously around them. "What did you do?" Clara whispered, inching closer to him, her fingers tightening around his hand. "What did you bring back?" Before Victor could respond, the figure melted deeper into the darkness, its eyes glinting like coals in a fire that lingered just at the periphery of their vision. "You think you vanquished me, Victor? Foolish man. The past is a festering wound, and no amount of light can erase the scars. I am part of you now." A cold shiver slithered down Victor's spine. He had thought he was free, had felt the weight of the chains breaking apart. But this was a different battle, one where the battlefield was his very own mind. "I'm not afraid of you," he declared, though doubt seeped into his voice. "Huh." The figure laughed, a sound so hollow, it echoed like a dying wind. "You should be. You've only just begun to unravel what's left of you, Victor. Shadows arise from the darkest pits of your soul. They hide and wait, feeding on neglect, on despair, on every ounce of regret you haven't faced." The melody that had once uplifted him twisted into a sinister lament. Each low note scraped against his nerves, clawing at his resolve. Clara's grip tightened even more as the shadows gathered, swirling like a tempest. "Victor," she cried, the panic etched in her expression. "We need to push forward. Don't let it take you." Her urgency was a beacon, yet Victor felt the pull of his memories, those he thought he had embraced, slipping through the cracks of his resolve. The warmth he had felt moments ago grew cold, hardening into an icy dread. "What if she's right?" whispered a lurking voice from the shadows, one that sounded eerily like his own. "What if you are not enough? Look at what you've done, the hurt, the pain you caused. Are you really okay?" "No," Victor shouted, shaking as if to dispel the flickering doubts. "I fought to accept those memories. I can face the truth." "Can you?" the figure hissed, dark amusement sparkling in its eyes. "What about the day Clara left? What about the lies you told to yourself to justify your actions? Are you ready to look her in the eye and not see disappointment?" He felt each question like a punch, each truth cutting deeper. Clara turned to him, her lips pressed together in a tight line. "Victor, please, say something." The shadows writhed, feeding off the rising tension, and he could feel his composure fraying at the edges like a tattered cloth. I don't know." Victor's voice faltered. "Exactly," hissed the figure. "You think you've found your way out, but the moment you falter, the shadows will drag you back in." With that, a blaring sound pierced through the air, a cacophony erupting from the very darkness surrounding him. It felt like the universe itself was breaking apart, and in that moment, he could see it, the kaleidoscope of his life, the good, the bad, the joyful and the painful, all crashing into one another, spinning out of control. Panic gripped his heart. "Clara," he called, desperation enveloping him. "I'm not ready. I can't face this alone." She stepped closer, eyes shimmering with determination. "You're not alone. We keep fighting, together. Trust in that." Victor swallowed hard, the chilling grip of doubt still lingering. Could he find the strength with Clara at his side, or was the figure right? Was he doomed to repeat the cycle? Just then, amidst the chaos, a single note rang out, pure and clear, breaking through the whirlpool of confusion. But it was a different melody, one he had never heard before. As the sound resonated, he felt his heart stir, sparking a new kind of hope. "What was this?" "Victor," Clara shouted, her voice weaving through the dissonance. "Whatever that is, go toward it. You can't let them win." He took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. But standing on the precipice of his past, He knew one moment of hesitation could mean falling back into the abyss. Would he leap toward the unknown sound, or let the shadows reel him back in? The answer lay within him, buried beneath the cries of regret and the glimmers of hope. But could he muster the strength to find it? As he steeled himself for the leap, the shadows lurked, ever ready to strike. What awaited him on the other side of that haunting note? Would it bring light or further darkness? Victor's heart thundered in his chest as he leaned forward, drawn to that ethereal note. It pulsed like a beacon, cutting through the suffocating dark that surrounded him. He felt Clara's presence enveloping him, a warm shield against the chilling whispers of self-doubt. "Jump, Victor! Trust the sound." Clara's voice was fierce, igniting a fire within him. He could see shadows writhe behind her, preparing to snap at his heels. This was at the moment demanded he choose between fear and hope. In one reckless leap, he flung himself toward the note. As he dove into the pulsating warmth, the world around him exploded into a cascade of colors: crimson reds, vibrant greens, and deep blues. The shadows screeched, clawing at him, but the notes wrapped around him like a safety net. Then, silence. The abrupt quiet felt heavy. Victor landed on solid ground, feeling radiant energy surge through him. He opened his eyes to find himself standing in a sunlit meadow, the air thick with the scent of wildflowers. Laughter danced on the breeze, blending with that one haunting note that still lingered. "Where are we?" he breathed, but the question escaped as Clara emerged, equally wide-eyed, her hair billowing like the petals of a blooming flower. "Victor, this place," she gasped, searching around them as if recognizing it. "It feels familiar." He turned, scanning the meadow, the beauty of it mesmerizing. There was a large oak tree to one side, its branches sprawling like welcoming arms. "I think," Victor paused, the warmth of forgotten memories washing over him. "I used to come here as a child, when everything felt simpler." Clara stepped closer, her fingers brushing a petal from a wildflower. "We were happy here, weren't we? Before everything changed." The shadows from before threatened to creep back into his mind. Memories surged: an innocent boy, full of dreams, laughter filling the air. Shadows began to form at the edges of the clearing, laced with whispers of bad choices and missed opportunities that clawed at his throat. "Victor, listen," Clara urged, eyes sparking with life. "The note, it's a key. It led us here for a reason. Don't let the shadows take this from us." But her words turned hollow as a low murmur began to fill the air. The shadows intertwined with the wildflowers, their dark tendrils grasping at the brightness around them. "Foolish boy," the figure taunted, its voice echoing with malice. "You think this dream will save you? You're only delaying the inevitable. I won't let you," Victor shouted, the fire within him awakening. As the shadows writhed closer, he grasped Clara's hand tightly. "We are stronger than you think. We will fight this together." The meadow quaked underfoot, the colors blending into swirling chaos. The haunting note transformed into a symphony of voices, echoes of joyful laughter mingled with cries of anguish. Memories swirled like raging winds as Victor fought to keep his focus on Clara's fierce determination. And then, from the turmoil, a shimmering figure broke through, luminous as if formed from the light of the sun itself. It stood tall, radiating warmth and peace, a stark contrast to the darkness. "You have summoned me," it spoke, its voice like a loving caress, washing over Victor and Clara. "You must choose, Victor. Confront your shadows, or let them engulf you." Victor's breath hitched as he looked at Clara. In her eyes, he saw unwavering support, but also fear. "What if I can't?" he whispered, vulnerability creeping in. "You can," she replied, squeezing his hand. Together. Stepping forward, Victor felt every regret and mistake he had tucked away ready to surface. The shadows hissed, retreating slightly as the glowing figure beckoned. "Face your truth," it urged, "and only then can the light reach you." Victor hesitated. Would his past banish him, or could it finally set him free? What truth did he still fear to embrace? As he stepped into the light, the shadows roared in protest. What would the confrontation reveal? Would it lead him to redemption, or pull him deeper into despair? Victor stepped into the light, a brilliant wave of warmth enveloping him, and yet, a rasping chill nipped at the edges of his courage. As he moved forward, memories began to emerge, swirling in the glow. Faces he loved and lost, Moments of joy and heart-wrenching sorrow, each one sharper than the last. He could hear them, the whispers of the shadows tightening around him, feeding on his hesitation. You think you can silence us? Their voices echoed, a sinister chorus that clawed at his resolve. You will never escape your past. Shut up, Victor yelled, clenching his fists. Clara squeezed his hand tighter, a lifeline in the storm of doubts and fears. You have no power over me. The shimmering figure remained steady, its eyes radiating kindness and strength. Embrace what you've hidden, Victor. Only then will you break free of the cycle. Taking a deep breath, Victor closed his eyes, focusing inward. The first image that surged forth was of his childhood home. He could see the faded yellow walls and the sun-drenched porch where laughter had once reigned. But then the shadows invaded his memories, every scream, every tear, every bitter regret that had piled up like old dust. Suddenly, he was back in his past, standing before the door he had long avoided. Why did I run? He murmured to himself. Why did I let it break me? Clara's voice pierced through the encroaching darkness. Victor, remember who you were. Your heart was once filled with dreams. She was right. The boy he had been, filled with hope and wonder, flickered like a candle struggling against the wind. It's time to light that flame again, he thought, feeling a tremor in his heart. With every ounce of strength he could muster, Victor stepped through the door. The moment he entered, all the shadows lunged at him, swirling in a frenzy of anger and pain. The memories flooded back. You made these choices. You are to blame. They taunted, voices merging into a cacophony that reverberated around him. No, Victor shouted defiantly. I want to be defined by my mistakes. I want to grow, I want to heal. The shadowy figures screeched as if stung. The memories began to transform, shifting from dark to shades of gray. Victor gasped, realizing that with each acceptance, they lost their grip on him. He could forgive himself. He could see the light in the darkness. But then, from the shadows emerged a dark figure, hulking and formidable, with a cruel smile that chilled Victor's bones. Do you really think you can outrun me? It growled. You carry me with you everywhere. Fear wrapped around Victor, squeezing the breath from his lungs. But Clara stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. You're not alone anymore, Victor. They can't have you. Fueled by her unwavering faith, he confronted the shadow. You're nothing but a ghost of my past, and I refuse to let you dictate my future. With that, he pushed against the darkness, forcing himself not to relent. The shadow writhed and twisted, anger bubbling over as it lashed out. You think you can erase me? Victor stood firm, feeling the warmth of Clara beside him, igniting the strength in his core. You are not in control of my life anymore, he roared. A blinding light erupted from him, illuminating the entire meadow. The darkness shrieked in fury as it began to dissolve, each shriek lessening until all that remained was a soft whisper of regret, fading into the air. But just as the shadows began to retreat, a flicker of movement caught Victor's eye. A flickering ember of gray, lingering and unyielding. What was that? He wondered, pulse quickening once again as reality shifted around him. That a deeper mystery loomed just beyond reach. But what was hidden in that dim glow? Would it lead him to liberation, or would another layer of darkness descend upon him? Victor's heart raced as he tracked the flickering ember, its ominous glow beckoning him forward. What lay at the center of this fading chaos? Was it another haunting memory, or a spark of hope waiting to ignite? Clara's presence felt electric beside him, her faith a steady current pushing him onward into the shimmer. The air thickened, each breath weighed down by the lingering shadows. Stay close, he whispered to Clara, fear masking the urgency in his voice. Inching toward the light, Victor's feet drew closer to the source of the ember. Goosebumps moved across his skin as he reached the threshold of a deeper darkness, the flicker pulsating like a heartbeat. Something primal was awakening, a force that felt both familiar and terrifying. Suddenly, the ember flared, growing larger and pulsating in color gray, then a sad shade of blue, finally morphing into a fiery orange. Memories clawed at his mind, memories he thought had been buried forever. He felt a tightening in his chest as guilt crept back, offering him a sly smile. This is your fault, it urged him, echoing like a taunt. You can't escape me. No, he shouted, squaring his shoulders. But doubt slipped in, seeping through the cracks, suffocating his resolve. "Remember, Victor," Clara said gently, taking a step closer, her voice breaking through the suffocating fog. "You faced the darkness before. You can do it again." Drawing strength from her words, Victor pressed himself towards the ember. In a heartbeat, the orange flicker exploded into a dazzling display of colors. Like fireworks bursting against a midnight sky, they wrapped around him in a spiral of warmth, washing over his doubts. "I am not that boy anymore," he thought fiercely, drawing on the strength he fought so hard to reclaim. But just as the brilliance seemed to overwhelm the shadows, a loud crack echoed, shattering the kaleidoscope of light. The dark figure re-emerged, larger than before, its presence swallowing the colors whole. "Foolish boy, you think you can wake up from this nightmare? I am your truth. I am your stories." "Enough," Victor shouted, voice breaking the tension like glass shattering underfoot. "You do not own me. You do not define me." The figure lunged, baring its teeth, the air thick with menace. Clara stood resolute beside him, her hand gripping Victor's. "Together, Victor, we face this." Their combined strength radiated outwards, resonating with the pulsing ember. They were the shield, the sword, the fire against the encroaching darkness. The shadows shrank back, their malevolence faltering under the might of their unity. In that moment, something shifted within Victor. Suddenly, he felt lighter, as if chains wrapped around his heart had begun to unravel. The ember glowed brighter still, illuminating his past and reflecting the faces of those he loved, lives lost but never forgotten, dreams held close yet torn apart. "I carry them with me," he thought, "not as a burden, but as love." Yet, just as clarity washed over him, the dark figure howled in fury, the sound splitting the air like a knife. "You cannot escape the cost of your truth." A blinding surge jolted through Victor. He and Clara were caught in a whirlwind of light and shadow swirling, fighting, balancing on a razor's edge of hope and despair. The ember seemed to pulse one last time, a beacon against the chaos surrounding them. Victor's resolve hardened. "I will embrace my truth, with or without you." The response sent shockwaves through the shadow, cracking its form like fragile glass. But then the world around them began to tremble, fissures opening beneath their feet. What would happen as the balance teetered? Would Victor shatter the chains that held him, or would he plunge back into the abyss? The ground shook violently, pulling them toward the unseen depths beneath. Clara's grip tightened, panic flickering in her eyes. "Victor, we have to. Hold on," he shouted over the rumbles, as he fought against the darkness that clamored to reclaim him. The ember surged one last time, a final call to bravery. As they plunged into the unknown, Victor realized the answer lay not in fleeing, but in bravely facing what waited below. What awaited them in the depths of this new reality? And could they rise from the ashes together, or were they destined to be consumed? The answers loomed just out of reach. In that chaotic swirl, Victor felt the earth slip beneath him, the shadows clinging and howling, relentless in their pursuit. A jarring sense of weightlessness enveloped him, as he and Clara fell deeper, spiraling down into an abyss that seemed to stretch endlessly. But within that dark void, something shifted. A flicker of light emerged, a beacon pulsing softly in the distance. "Focus on the light," Clara urged, her voice a lifeline in the tumult. "Trust it." With every ounce of strength, Victor tightened his grip on her hand, the warmth anchoring him against the freezing tendrils of despair wrapping around them. As they descended further, the flickering light grew brighter, illuminating a path laden with memories haunting yet beautiful. Victor's heart raced as he was pulled into the echoes of laughter from his childhood, images swirling like leaves in an autumn breeze. The faces he had lost, moments that once filled his heart with joy, came rushing back to him in a vibrant tapestry of colors. "I remember," he whispered, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of loss and love intertwined. "It's all part of who I am." "Exactly," Clara replied, her voice steady. "That's the truth, the light in your darkness. You've hidden it long enough." Just as he thought they were safe, shadows erupted around them, twisted faces, memories turned sour, a cacophony of guilt and regret. "You think you can escape?" they sneered, the dark figure morphing into an amalgamation of the pain Victor had experienced throughout his life. No, he shouted defiantly, feeling Clara's unwavering strength beside him. You won't control me any longer. I accept all of it, the good and the bad. It has shaped who I am. With that declaration, a surge of power erupted from within. The flickering light escalated, casting a luminous glow through the dark void. The shadows recoiled, hissing in frustration, their overwhelming grip shattered by the acceptance flowing through Victor as they landed softly on solid ground. Victor felt the energy radiating from the ember engulf him, wrapping around him like an embrace. The shadowy reminders, once so menacing, began to retreat, dissolving into the light until only the remnants of his past lingered, whispering like a soft breeze. We did it, Clara's voice wavered, looking around at the transformed landscape. The darkness faded into the backdrop of a sprawling meadow, familiar and welcoming. Colors erupted around them, a vibrant green of grass, the golden gleam of sunlight, and blooming wildflowers that swayed in the gentle breeze. Victor turned to Clara, the smile on his face wide enough to light up the world. You were right. The past is part of me, but it doesn't define me. Her eyes sparkled with joy, reflecting the warmth of the new day dawning before them. And together, we can create our future, one that honors your truth, where shadows no longer hold you hostage. In that moment, the oppressive weight that had hovered over Victor for 2 decades dissipated, replaced by a profound sense of liberation. It was like a dam bursting, flooding his heart with hope and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Thank you, Clara, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You've brought me back to life. No, Victor, she replied, stepping closer, her gaze unwavering. You've brought yourself back to life. The courage was always within you. They stood together, their hands still clasped, as the meadow vibrated with new beginnings. A gentle breeze carried whispers of laughter, filling the air with possibility. Victor felt lighter than he had ever thought possible, freed from the shackles of his past. But in the distance, the lingering shadow of the dark figure remained, a reminder that challenges might still linger. Yet, Victor knew he was not alone. With Clara by his side, they could face any storm together. Let us go, he said, confidence rising within him. We have a life to build. Side by side, they walked into the radiant light of a new dawn, ready to embrace whatever the future held. With every step, the past receded, no longer a source of fear, but a foundation for growth. And so, like a symphony rising to a crescendo, Victor had finally found his melody, a song filled with healing, hope, and love. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories like this one. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the audio alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters, and we're grateful for every single one of you.